Nshira was a young woman with a heart as pure as the morning sun. Though she had grown up as an orphan with no riches to her name, she carried herself with grace and kindness. When Exile, the eldest son of the wealthy Asongwe family, chose her as his wife, the entire village was shocked. Why would a man of such status marry a woman with nothing? But Exile saw beyond wealth. He saw Nshira's gentle spirit, her unwavering loyalty, and the warmth in her soul. Their wedding was grand, yet behind the joyous celebrations, dark whispers filled the air. Among those who disapproved the most was Tamara, Echo's elder sister. From the moment she laid eyes on Nshira, she despised her. To Tamara, Nshira was nothing but an unwanted guest, a nobody who had no right to be part of their prestigious family. With her sharp tongue and wicked heart, she wasted no time in making Nshira's life difficult. Tamara was known for her arrogance and dominance in the household. She had been raised to believe that status and wealth defined a person's worth, and to her, Nshira was beneath them all. She would smirk whenever Nshira entered the room, finding ways to remind her that she was not welcome. But it wasn't enough for Tamara to dislike her in silence. She wanted the whole village to share in her hatred, and so she began her cruel work. She whispered into the ears of the villagers, telling them that Nshira was useless, a burden to the Asongwe family. She has no skills, no wealth, no wisdom, she would say. What does she bring to our family except shame? At first, the people didn't pay much attention, but Tamara was persistent. She spread her words like wildfire, making sure everyone believed that Nshira was nothing more than an undeserving woman who had tricked her way into the family. Nshira, unaware of the storm brewing around her, continued to live her life with kindness. She served her husband with love, respected the elders, and treated even the servants with compassion. But no matter what she did, the whispers only grew louder. Soon, women in the village began gossiping about her. Servants started looking at her with pity, and even some of the elders began questioning Eko's decision. Tamara, satisfied with her work, watched from the shadows with a cruel smile. She had planted the seed of doubt in everyone's mind, and she knew it was only a matter of time before it destroyed Nshira completely. Tamara was not satisfied with just spreading rumors about Nshira. She wanted to make her life unbearable. She knew that if she could turn their mother, Mafo, against Nshira, then no one in the household would dare defend her. Mafo was a woman of strong opinions, and once she believed something, nothing could change her mind. Tamara took full advantage of this. She would sigh dramatically whenever Mafo was around, shaking her head, as if burdened by a great problem. "Mother, have you noticed how lazy Nshira is?" she would say, her voice dripping with concern. "She sleeps late, she does nothing useful, and she only married Echo for his wealth." Mafo frowned at first, unsure whether to believe her daughter, but Tamara was relentless. Every day, she found new ways to twist the truth. If Nshira helped a servant carry water, Tamara would claim she was pretending to work. If she sat for a moment to rest, Tamara would whisper that she was avoiding chores. Slowly, Mafo's patience began to wear thin. She started watching Nshira with suspicion, questioning everything she did. One morning, Mafo called Nshira to the center of the courtyard. "Since you are so idle, you will handle all the housework from now on," she declared. Nshira's heart sank, but she did not argue. She simply nodded and accepted her fate. From that day, Nshira's hands knew no rest. She woke before the sun rose and worked until late at night. She scrubbed the floors, washed the clothes, cooked for the entire family, and fetched water from the river miles away. While she worked tirelessly, Tamara sat comfortably under the shade, sipping fresh palm wine and laughing with her friends. She would watch Nshira struggle and smirk, satisfied with her cruelty. The village women soon noticed the change in Nshira's life. Instead of defending her, they found entertainment in her suffering. "Look at the mighty wife of Ekau," they mocked as she carried heavy baskets on her head. "A woman who was supposed to be a queen has become a mere servant." They laughed as she passed by, pointing at her blistered hands and worn-out clothes. "A disgrace to the Asongwe family," they whispered, shaking their heads in fake pity. Nshira swallowed her pain and kept working. She never answered back, never complained. She believed that one day Echo would return from his trading journey and see the truth. But as the days turned to weeks and the weeks turned to months, she realized something terrible. No one was coming to save her. She was alone in a house full of enemies, trapped in a life she had never imagined. Tamara, pleased with her victory, made sure Nshira felt completely worthless. "You don't belong here," she would whisper whenever no one was around. Exile will regret marrying you. It's only a matter of time before he sends you away. Nshira held back her tears, but deep inside, something was changing. A quiet strength was building in her heart. She didn't know it yet, but this torment was only the beginning of a journey that would shock the entire village. Tamara's hatred for Nshira burned deeper with each passing day. No matter how hard she tried to break her, Nshira remained kind, patient, and strong. The servants admired her, and even the villagers, despite mocking her, could not deny that she had a heart of gold. But what angered Tamara the most was that, even after all the suffering, Nshira's beauty never faded. She was radiant, her eyes filled with warmth, and her spirit unbroken. This made Tamara's jealousy grow into something darker, something dangerous. One evening, as Tamara watched Nshira quietly preparing dinner, an idea came to her. If hard labor and humiliation couldn't break Nshira, then perhaps a scandal would. She needed to destroy Nshira's name, to make the entire village turn against her, and she knew exactly how to do it. Tamara waited until Echo left on a long trading journey, ensuring that Nshira had no one to protect her. Then, she put her plan into motion. Late at night, while everyone was asleep, she sneaked into Mafo's treasure room, a place where the family's most precious gold and jewels were kept. Carefully, she took a handful of the finest gold bracelets and hid them inside Nshira's room, stuffing them beneath her sleeping mat. Then, with a wicked smile, she waited for morning. At sunrise, Tamara rushed into Mafo's chambers, pretending to be in distress. "Mother," she cried, "something terrible has happened. Your gold, it's missing." Mafo, startled, followed Tamara as she led her straight to Nshira's room. Without hesitation, Tamara pulled up the mat, revealing the stolen gold. Gasps filled the air. Nshira, who had just entered the room carrying a tray of food, froze in shock. I don't know how that got there," she stammered, her voice shaking. Mafo's face twisted in rage. "So, this is how you repay my kindness, you ungrateful thief!" Her voice echoed through the house, drawing servants and villagers to gather outside. "I swear I did not take them," Nshira pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "I would never steal." But Tamara stood beside Mafo, her arms crossed, a fake look of disappointment on her face. "We gave you a home, and this is how you repay us. You have shamed this family, Nshira," the villagers murmured amongst themselves. "So, the rumors were true," some whispered. "She is nothing but a common thief." Mafo did not give Nshira a chance to explain. With fury in her eyes, she grabbed Nshira's wrist and dragged her to the front of the house. "You are a disgrace. From this moment on, you are no longer welcome in this family." Nshira's heart pounded as she looked around, searching for a kind face, someone to defend her, but no one spoke. Even the servants, who had once admired her, lowered their heads in silence, too afraid to challenge Mafo's wrath. Then, in front of the entire village, Mafo raised her hand and slapped Nshira across the face. The sound echoed, followed by gasps from the crowd. "Get out of my house!" Mafo spat, "and never return." Tears streamed down Nshira's cheeks as she turned away. She had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. With trembling hands, she lifted the edge of her tattered wrapper and began walking down the village path, her vision blurred by heartbreak. Tamara watched her leave, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought she had finally erased Nshira from their lives forever. But what she didn't know was that fate had something else in store, something that would make the entire village bow before the woman they had cast away. Nshira walked aimlessly, her bare feet dragging across the dusty path. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the village, but she had no home to return to. Tears blurred her vision as she moved forward, each step heavier than the last. The whispers of the villagers still rang in her ears. Thief, disgrace, useless. The very people she had once served with kindness had turned their backs on her. As night fell, the village lights disappeared behind her, and she found herself at the edge of the deep forest. Fear gripped her heart. The forest was known for its dangers, wild animals, spirits, and the unknown. But she had no choice. She could not turn back. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward into the darkness. The trees loomed over her, their twisted branches reaching out like clawed hands. Strange sounds echoed through the air, hoots, rustling leaves, the distant howl of a creature she could not see. Cold wind bit at her skin, but she kept moving. With every step, she whispered a silent prayer, begging the gods to guide her, to show her mercy. Her legs grew weak, and her stomach twisted with hunger. She hadn't eaten since morning. She stumbled over roots, her body aching, her mind clouded with exhaustion. Just as she thought she could go no further, her foot caught on a rock, and she fell hard onto the damp earth. Pain shot through her arms as she struggled to rise, but her body refused to move. She lay there, defeated, letting the darkness swallow her whole. Then, through half-closed eyes, she saw movement, a figure approaching. Her heart pounded. Was it a spirit? A wild beast? She tried to lift herself, to run, but her body remained frozen. The figure drew closer, stepping into the faint moonlight. It was an old woman, wrapped in dark robes, her silver hair flowing down her back like a river of wisdom. The woman knelt beside her, studying her with sharp, knowing eyes. "You do not belong here, child," she said, her voice deep and steady. Tears rolled down Nshira's cheeks. "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. The woman sighed, then extended a wrinkled hand. "Come, the gods do not abandon those with pure hearts." With the last ounce of strength she had, Nshira reached out and grasped the woman's hand. It was warm, strong, filled with an energy she could not understand. The woman pulled her up and guided her through the forest, deeper into the unknown. Soon, they arrived at a small, hidden hut surrounded by herbs and glowing lanterns. Smoke curled from the roof, filling the air with the scent of burning incense. Inside, the hut was simple, yet filled with objects that seemed ancient. Bowls of crushed leaves, carved wooden masks, strange symbols painted on the walls. The woman set a bowl of warm broth before Nshira. "Eat," she said. "You will need your strength." Nshira sipped the broth, feeling warmth spread through her body. She looked up at the woman, curiosity filling her tired eyes. "Who are you?" The woman gave a small smile. "I am Adzika, a healer, a guide, and perhaps the one who will help you see who you truly are." Nshira did not understand what she meant, but for the first time in days, she felt safe. She did not know that her journey was only beginning, that in this small hut, hidden from the world, she would awaken a strength within herself that no one, not Tamara, not Mafo, not even the entire village, could ever take away from her. At first, Nshira struggled. The life she had known, one of servitude, pain, and rejection, had left deep scars on her heart. But Adzika was patient. She saw something in Nshira that even Nshira did not see in herself. "You are not weak," the old woman told her. "You have been tested by fire, and now it is time to rise." Every morning, before the sun kissed the earth, Adzika woke Nshira and led her deep into the forest. She taught her the names of plants, their hidden powers, and how they could heal even the deepest wounds. Some leaves soothed pain, some cured fevers, and some could even bring back a person who had been at the edge of death. Nshira learned to grind herbs into powders, mix potions, and create healing balms. But healing was not just about medicine. The spirit must be healed before the body, Adzika reminded her. She taught Nshira how to listen, not just with her ears, but with her heart, to understand people's suffering, to feel their pain, and to comfort them not just with herbs, but with words, with kindness, with wisdom. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Nshira grew stronger. The girl who had once been called useless was now a woman of knowledge, her hands no longer weak from endless chores, but steady with purpose. One evening, as they were grinding leaves under the golden light of dusk, a desperate voice shattered the silence. "Please, help. My son is dying." A man stumbled into the clearing, his face drenched in sweat, carrying a small, limp boy in his arms. Nshira's heart pounded, but Adzika remained calm. "Do not fear. You know what to do." Nshira hesitated. She had never treated someone alone before. What if she failed? What if the boy died in her hands? "Trust yourself," Adzika whispered. Swallowing her fear, Nshira took a deep breath and examined the child. His skin burned with fever. His breaths were shallow. She quickly gathered herbs, crushing them into a thick paste. Gently, she rubbed the mixture onto the boy's chest, whispering a prayer Adzika had taught her. She made him drink a bitter tea, cooling his forehead with damp cloths. Hours passed, the night deepening, but Nshira did not rest. Then, just before dawn, the boy's eyes fluttered open. He coughed weakly and reached for his father. Tears streamed down the man's face. "You saved him," he whispered. "You are a gift from the gods." The man spread the story of the mysterious healer in the forest, and soon more people came. Mothers carrying sick children, elders seeking relief from pain, warriors wounded from battle, They came from nearby villages, then from faraway lands. Some walked for days just to find her. And just like that, Nshira, the girl who was once thrown away like dust, became a legend. But this was only the beginning. The same village that had mocked her, the same family that had cast her out, was about to come searching for the healer they never believed in. Tamara and Mafo had spent their lives in luxury, believing they were untouchable, but fate had its own plans. It started as a simple fever, one that no one paid much attention to, but within days, their bodies grew weak, their skin pale, and strange rashes spread across them like a curse. Mafo, once a proud and powerful woman, could barely lift her head. Her sharp tongue, which had once humiliated Nshira, now trembled with weakness. Tamara, who had once strutted through the village like a queen, now lay in bed, drenched in sweat, her strength fading. The Asongwe family, known for their wealth, called upon the best healers from across the land. Herbalists, priests, and even traveling doctors, all tried, but none succeeded. The medicine that once worked for others failed them. The chants of the elders brought no relief. The sickness only grew worse, turning into something unnatural, something no one had ever seen before. The village, once full of people who had mocked Nshira, now lived in fear. The gods are angry, they whispered. The Asongwe family is cursed. Exile, who had been away on a long trading journey, returned to find his home in chaos. Servants rushed about, elders gathered outside the compound, and his mother and sister lay on their deathbeds. He had never seen Mafo so weak, never seen Tamara so helpless. "We have tried everything," one of the healers told him. "They do not have much time." Desperation gripped Iko's heart. He loved his mother, despite her harsh ways. Tamara had always been difficult, but she was still his sister. He could not let them die. Then, a whisper spread through the village. A story of a healer, one who lived deep in the forest. A woman who had cured the incurable, saved the dying, and healed those who had been given no hope. Some said she had powers beyond human understanding. Others believed she was a spirit sent by the gods. Echo had no other choice. He had to find her. Ignoring the warnings of the villagers, he set out into the forest, pushing past the fear that clawed at his mind. The trees grew taller, the air thicker, the shadows darker, but he pressed on, following the stories, following hope. He did not know that the woman he was searching for, the healer, the legend, the last chance to save his family, was the very same woman he had once loved and lost. Nshira, the wife he had abandoned, the woman his own family had cast out, the one they had called useless. And now, she was the only one who could save them. The sun hung low in the sky as Nshira made her way toward the Asongwe home, her steps steady, her heart unshaken. She was no longer the timid girl who had once been thrown out in shame. Dressed in flowing regal robes, embroidered with golden patterns that shimmered under the fading sunlight, she walked with the grace of a queen. The village had heard rumors, whispers of a healer so powerful that even the spirits bowed to her touch. But no one expected the truth. As Nshira entered the village, the people gasped. Their eyes widened in shock, their voices hushed in disbelief. "Is that Nshira?" someone whispered. "The same Nshira they called useless." Mothers, elders, and even the children stood frozen, watching as the woman they had mocked, the woman they had cast out, returned, not as a beggar, but as a legend. At the entrance of the Asongwe home, Iko stood waiting. His heart pounded as he lifted his eyes to meet hers. He had spent days searching for the healer, never imagining that she had been right in front of him all along, the wife he had failed to protect. "Nshira," he whispered, his voice trembling. And then, in front of the entire village, he dropped to his knees. The elders followed. Then, the villagers. The proud, mighty Asongwe family, once feared and respected, now knelt in the dust, before the very woman they had once humiliated. "Nshira, please," Echo begged. "Save them." Inside, Tamara lay on a mat, her face pale, her body frail. The once proud woman who had sneered at Nshira, called her useless, and cast her aside was now nothing but a shadow of her former self. Her eyes, once filled with arrogance, now brimmed with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. "Please, forgive me," she rasped. "Help me." Nshira stood still, staring at the sister-in-law who had made her life unbearable, the same woman who had lied, manipulated, and thrown her into the streets. Now, Tamara lay before her, powerless, desperate, at the mercy of the very person she had once despised. The entire village held its breath. Would Nshira walk away? Would she take revenge? Would she finally make them suffer as they had made her suffer? But Nshira was no longer the girl they had once tormented. She was more than just a healer. She was wisdom. She was strength. She was destiny. Lifting her head high, she took a deep breath, and then, with the eyes of the village upon her, she made her choice. A heavy silence settled over the village as Nshira stood before the kneeling figures of Echo, the elders, and the desperate, dying Tamara and Mafo. All eyes were on her. Would she walk away? Would she finally punish those who had tormented her? She took a deep breath, her gaze steady, as she looked down at Tamara, the same woman who had once called her useless, the same woman who had poisoned Mafo's heart against her. Now, Tamara was weak, broken, and trembling. "You want me to heal you?" Nshira's voice was calm, but it carried a power that sent shivers through the crowd. "Yes, please," Tamara sobbed. Tears streamed down her once proud face as she clutched Nshira's robes. "I was wrong. I was cruel. I let my jealousy turn me into a monster. I destroyed your life, and yet here you stand, greater than all of us." Her voice cracked as she lowered her head in shame. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, have mercy." The entire village watched, some with guilt, others with awe. They had laughed at Nshira, mocked her, turned their backs on her when she needed them the most. And yet, she had risen, not as a bitter woman seeking revenge, but as a healer with power beyond their understanding. Mafo, once feared for her sharp tongue and iron rule, now lay frail and weak. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I was blinded by pride," she admitted, struggling to lift her hand toward Nshira. "I should have welcomed you as my daughter. I should have protected you. Instead, I let hatred consume me." She coughed, her strength fading. "Forgive me, child." Nshira closed her eyes, letting their words settle in the air. She had dreamed of this moment once, of seeing them suffer, of hearing them beg. But now, standing before them, she felt no joy in their pain. Revenge would not heal the past. "If I am to heal you," she finally said, her voice firm, "it must not be in secret. You must confess before the entire village what you did to me. Every lie, every cruelty, every sin." Tamara gasped, her shame deepening. But she knew Nshira was right. Before the crowd, she lifted her trembling hands. "I was cruel to Nshira," she said loudly, her voice breaking. "I spread lies about her. I made her life miserable. And when she had done nothing wrong, I threw her out like she was nothing." Mafo, with the little strength she had, nodded. "We wronged you, Nshira, and now we face the consequences of our own wickedness." Satisfied, Nshira knelt beside them, placing her hands over their weak bodies. The crowd watched in awe as a warm glow surrounded her palms. Slowly, the sickness that had consumed them began to fade. The impossible was happening before their eyes. When it was done, Tamara and Mafo, now healed, looked up at Nshira with gratitude and remorse. "Come home," Echo whispered. "Let us make things right." But Nshira only smiled. "My journey is not here," she said. "I am a healer now, and my path is far greater than these walls." With one final glance at the home she once knew, Nshira turned and walked away, leaving behind a village forever changed by her grace. The village square was packed. Every man, woman, and child had gathered, their eyes filled with awe as Nshira stood before them. Just months ago, they had laughed at her, whispered behind her back, and treated her as if she were worthless. But now, they looked at her as if she were sent by the gods themselves. The chief, a man of great wisdom, stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the woman who had once been cast aside. He had heard the stories, how Nshira had healed those whom even the greatest medicine men had failed to save, how her touch had pulled the dying back from the brink of death. He had seen it with his own eyes when she restored Mafo and Tamara. "Nshira," the chief said, his deep voice carrying across the silent crowd, "we once saw you as nothing. We mocked your struggles. We let cruelty push you into exile. But today, we see the truth. You are no ordinary woman. You are a divine healer, a blessing to this land." A murmur spread through the crowd. The same women who had sneered at her, calling her a disgrace to the Asongwe family, now lowered their heads in shame. The chief, the elders, the warriors, one by one, they bent their knees before Nshira, a sight that sent shivers through the villagers. The highest men of the land, the most respected figures, now knelt before the woman they had once ignored. A gasp rippled through the crowd as others followed. Mothers, daughters, traders, farmers. One by one, they knelt, their hands pressed together in reverence. "Nshira, forgive us," one of the older women sobbed. "We were blind. Teach us," another whispered. "Make us your students. Let us learn from you." The same women who had once whispered cruel words behind her back now begged to sit at her feet. The same elders who had refused to hear her cries now looked to her for wisdom. Nshira took a deep breath, her heart swelling, not with pride, but with purpose. She had never sought power, never wished for revenge. She only wanted to help, to heal, to bring light where there was once darkness. "You once called me useless," she finally said, her voice calm yet powerful. "You once turned your backs on me, but I did not seek revenge. Instead, I found a greater purpose. And now I will use this gift, not for anger, not for pride, but for the good of all." The chief bowed his head. "Then let it be known, from this day forward, that Nshira is not just a healer. She is a guardian of this village. She is wisdom, she is strength, and she is our guide." The crowd erupted into cheers, but Nshira simply smiled. She had won, not by hatred, not by vengeance, but by proving that true power lay in kindness, wisdom, and the strength to rise above the past. Nshira stood at the edge of the village, gazing at the land before her. It was peaceful, untouched, waiting for a new purpose. She had spent years learning the art of healing, understanding the secrets of nature, and finding her own strength. Now, it was time to pass on that knowledge. With the chief's blessing, she established a healing sanctuary, a place where young women, especially those cast aside like she once was, could learn medicine, wisdom, and the power of self-belief. Girls who had been told they were worthless came to her, their eyes filled with hope. She taught them the magic of herbs, the art of healing, and the importance of kindness. She showed them that strength was not about where you came from, but about what you chose to become. Word spread across villages, and soon people travelled from far and wide to seek Nshira's guidance. Mothers brought their sick children. Warriors with battle wounds came for her touch. Even elders sought her wisdom. The same village that once shunned her now looked to her for salvation. One day, Echo came to visit. He had watched everything from afar, his heart filled with both pride and regret. He had never stopped loving her. "Nshira," he said gently, "I was blind. I should have protected you. I should have stood by you when the world turned against you. If you will allow it, I want to stand beside you now." Nshira looked at him, her heart soft, but her spirit unshaken. Once she had dreamed of a life where love defined her future, but now she had found something greater, her purpose. "Echo," she said with a kind smile, "you are a good man, and I forgive you, but I am no longer the woman who needs saving. My path is different now." Echo nodded, understanding. He had lost her, but he had also gained something far greater, respect for the woman she had become. They remained friends, bound by memories, but walking separate roads. As the years passed, Nshira's name became a legend. Children sat by the fire at night, listening to tales of the woman who had once been called useless, only to rise above them all. Mothers whispered her story to their daughters, reminding them that strength was not in birth, but in the spirit. And so, the girl who was once mocked, the girl who was cast out, became a guiding light for generations to come. Nshira had not just healed wounds, she had healed a broken legacy, proving to the world that true power lies in resilience, wisdom, and an unshakable belief in oneself. If Nshira's story touched your heart, remember, no one's worth is defined by others. Strength comes from within. Let her journey be a reminder that even in the darkest times, we can rise. If you believe in resilience, kindness, and the power of never giving up, then like this video, share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories.